Oh, yes. Oh, oh, yeah. What is up, party peoples? Bobo here with BrassReel Brothers. Today we're going to be talking about two things. One, the Batman trailer, the new trailer at DC FanDome. And we're going to be talking about breaking it down. So guys, thank you so much for joining me if you are. If not, thanks so much for clicking on this video and watching it later. So Bobo here with BrassReel Brothers. And I said I wasn't going to be doing these live streams as much anymore. I knew it. I don't, if you saw some of my stuff lately or one of my videos talking about going forward, I'm not going to be doing these consistently on a daily basis. But man, with this weekend with DC FanDome coming out, I had to talk about this. And man, what a weekend it was. I mean, you had Halloween Kills come out on Friday. You had basically all day of DC FanDome with just the Flash trailer, which I'm going to be a breakdown of that later on after this one. Probably get that one out today as well. We also had the Black Adam trailer. We had video game trailers for like the Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, the new Shazam movie, Fury of the Gods. We had to look behind the scenes on that. Aquaman 2 behind the scenes on that. I mean, it was badass. I was super, super stoked all day on Saturday. Had a blast. But man, there's just too much entertainment out there to keep track of. I mean, I'm working on my Halloween Kills video right now. And, you know, I'm just really trying to pump these videos out constantly, getting ahead of myself or behind actually. But you know what? The beauty is that it's my channel. And as long as I keep putting the videos out somewhat consistently, and that's the thing, I'm not taking off like weeks at a time. I'm not able to put them out every day like I was wanting to, just because those reviews take a little bit more time. So I am working on my Halloween Kills video. That'll be coming out soon. But man, with DC FanDome happening, I had to talk about it. And especially me being the Batman fan that I am, being such a Batman nerd. And those who know me know that Batman has been my boy for the longest time since I was a kid. Never strayed away. Back in the day when comics were looked at as being nerdy and all that stuff, I was there from day one. So the fact that it's just blown up like this, and we get so many different renditions and reiterations of Batman. I mean, I've loved them all. I love the Adam West. I love Michael Keaton, obviously, is it's the one that I truly grew up on. I mean, I even have a soft spot for the Val Kilmer one. The only one I don't like at all is the George Clooney. I can't handle that one. But Nolan's Batman with Christian Bale doing it, that was awesome. And Ben Affleck, most of y'all know, he's my favorite one. But I got to tell you, this one right here is shaping up to be possibly the best and accurate depiction of Batman yet. I mean, I'm not saying that that's the truth because I haven't seen the movie, but I mean, by the way everything's looking in this movie, it's just, you know, comic books have depicted Batman in so many different ways. Anytime you get a new author, especially a new artist, you're going to get a new take on the character. That's the beauty about the comic books. We have these darker versions. We have these more lighthearted versions. Sometimes we have some very twisted versions. We get some emotional versions of Batman sometimes. And I like all that. I like to see the side with him and Selina. I like the conflicts of the character. And sometimes having a different look, having a different approach to the character as a whole, it just works. And this one right here, they're starting over again. So whereas you had Ben Affleck is like the Frank Miller Batman, which is awesome. This one's seeming to be a little bit more like, to me, sort of like the Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo Batman, which those two guys are the most recent famous guys to do Batman in the comics. They did almost a 10-year run. I say probably more like 8 years, but very, very popular run in the comics. And the look he's going for is just reminding me of that. So let's just break this trailer down, guys. I mean, yesterday it starts off cops approaching this restaurant. And you know, of course, you're thinking, who is this? Immediately, you see him creeping up. It's Paul Dano. It's the Riddler. I mean, you can tell that's Paul Dano from the side. So we knew that he was playing the Riddler. But the whole narration of him talking over this and everything, and then you have other people talking over too. That's what I like. It switches narration. But obviously, just creeping in on him. They bust a move. They get him. And as soon as they leave, we get to see this just slow zoom in shot of this coffee mug. And then, of course, in true Riddler fashion, we get the question mark inside the coffee cup. Now, real quick, Did he? I mean, I guess you can do that with your finger in the latte that way, but boy, he's a pro at that. I guess the Riddler would practice that at the house, right? But you guys, they're going for, a lot of different choices in this movie as far as Commissioner Gordon. They're at the first time, they're not making him white. They're going to the other option. And then they're just really changing a lot of other things around. Whereas Penguin, usually we've seen a lot of him doing the Irish Penguin, the Irish accent. And now that looks like they're going more the New York accent with the Penguin in this one. And the Riddler's obviously, I just think I've never heard real accent from the Riddler. He's just an American guy. So that's fine. But the fact that you're getting a black Commissioner Gordon, I think is really cool because, none of those things matter to the character. The core elements of the character are just who they are and what they represent to the story. And I'm really excited all those things that they're manipulating and changing. However, with that being said, I feel like that this one truly is sort of pulling from the pages of the comics more than any other film. It's more comic accurate. For example, things like this are things you see in the comics more. And we've seen the bat symbol and other things. So let's move forward in the trailer breakdown. Right after this point in the trailer, it goes straight to us just seeing this light. And obviously, I mean, that's Commissioner Gordon. Look at him. I mean, that's Commissioner Gordon as much as I've ever seen him right there. It looks like him. He's got the trench coat on. He's got the tie. You can see just the hint of the mustache. I don't know. It just looks very comic booky to me, but not in a way that Zack Snyder did it. And I'm not dogging on Zack Snyder's Batman, and as far as Batman versus Superman and his Batman in the Justice League, Snyder's Justice League. Ben Affleck is my favorite guy as far as Bruce Wayne and Batman are concerned. So thus far, I haven't seen the Batman yet. Got my Batman swell right here. Oh yeah. But when I say this one's the most comic accurate, Zack Snyder's was very comic booky. Those movies were very fictional feeling. This feels more in a real world. Zack Snyder's Batman was in a world where all these other superpowered heroes existed, and Batman was actually one of the very few that didn't have any powers. Whereas this one, I think they're going back to that, the way Nolan's Batman was, the way Michael Keaton and Kilmer's Batman was, where Batman is only in a world where Batman exists. It's not like there's a ton of superheroes. What makes him special is that he's the one doing this. So with them going for that approach, I think they are making it super comic book accurate, but realistic at the same time. More of the way Nolan was realistic, but he wasn't so comic book accurate. He made his own little world. This looks like it's pulling way more from the true lore of Batman. So seeing the sign in the sky, I love how they say this in this, like, it's not just a symbol. It's not just a calling. It's a warning. And that's badass. Look, Batman to me has always been menacing, and he's always been threatening. And he's always been somebody that criminals truly, truly are afraid of. Excuse me, something in my throat there. They truly are afraid of him. And it's not like they're afraid of even a gun. They're more afraid of Batman than they are a gun because of they feel like they can maybe outsmart a gun and all that. You can't outsmart Batman most of the time. And he's lurking in the shadows. And I love how they approach him like that in this. Batman look at that. God. Jeez, that's so good. I mean, so far, all the shots I've seen of Pattinson in the suit are perfect. I mean, when I saw this trailer, it was super excitement. I was excited about this movie. I was, because it's Batman. But I've been saying for a long time, I feel like they should leave the character alone just a little bit. And I'm not saying that I don't want them to make Batman movies, but it's kind of the same scenario with Star Wars. As soon as Disney bought Star Wars, they were making Star Wars movies every year. And part of what we love about the Star Wars movies was sort of that anticipation, waiting years for another saga. I mean, I remember when the only saga that existed was episode 4, 5, and 6, the original trilogy. And it seemed like it was forever before the prequel trilogy came out. Which, but now we've got not only a prequel trilogy, we've got a post trilogy, and we've got another trilogy, basically. I mean, it's not really because they didn't finish it out. We had Solo and we had Rogue One, which Rogue One was awesome. Solo, not so much. But anyways, it just took away from that whole anticipation and build up of Star Wars, speculation and all that. That's part of what made it fun. And it stopped being fun like that. And the same thing was happening with Batman. I feel like it's just like, all right, time to do another Batman. In fact, in a sort of coinciding world with another Batman, and now we got a Flash movie coming out with a Michael Keaton Batman in it. Not that I'm saying I'm upset about any of that. I wish they would have done that and just sort of left this character alone, because it was making me just feel like they were shoving Batman down your throat. Now, until Saturday, I was feeling that way. Now, after this trailer, I'm pretty damn excited. I'm not gonna lie. It's got me tickled about Batman. It's put Batman back to the front for me as far as, all right, maybe there's a reason for this movie to be made. So, getting back to the breakdown, we get that first shot of Batman looking at the signal. And God, every time I see it, it just is so good. It's so Batman. I love it. And remember, this is a young Batman. And I don't think we're getting origin in this. And Matt Reeves and DC Fandom this weekend said it. This isn't necessarily the origin. This is like in the first year of Batman. This is sort of like maybe year 2 almost. So, because this isn't the year 1 story. In fact, from what I understand, they're heavily relying on the Long Halloween story. And we'll get into that in a second. I'll tell you sort of the comparisons there. But we see some goons on the bus here and stuff like that. We've seen the first trailer of this where Batman, we know he's going to beat these dudes up, but just waiting for it in this trailer was just as much fun. And seeing Batman come out of the shadows like that. I mean, look at that. That's Batman, isn't it? And I like the sleekness of it. I like how it's tight around him. It's small. It doesn't feel big. While I understood the practicality of the Christian Bale suit, Nolan's Batman, it started to feel a little clunky and sort of like robotic Iron Man-y. And not that it was bad. I still loved it. Don't get me wrong. But this seems to be more of like really, really just sleek and cool and practical at the same time. So then this background shot of him approaching those thugs. I mean, what do you guys think about the spiny ears? Do you like those? I like them. I think they look great. And again, this is a different Batman. It's also the beginning. And also, let me back up to one of these pictures right here. You see how it sort of kind of mimics the 1960s Batman Adam West cowl a little bit in certain ways. Obviously, it's not blue and everything, but it's tight around the neck and it's got sort of leather stitching around the nose. And we'll see a better picture of that here in a minute. But I love that because it sort of implies that he still hasn't gotten it super figured out yet. I mean, he still is a badass. He's still got good suit, good armor, but he hadn't quite fully figured out, maybe he'll graduate to something a little later in the next films to where, all right, it's no longer a leather cowl. Now it's actually something different, but who knows? It could be leather and Kevlar and all these different things where it's super, bulletproof or something. But I just love the way he looks. But him standing up to these thugs right here, and then just look, even though it's a moving shot and there's a lot of action going on, the fact that it's almost fully silhouetted like that, and you see Batman's tiny little ears, I love that. I think it's great. And because these are like medium ears. We had Nolan's style was a little shorter. I mean, they were still kind of up there, but they were a little shorter. And then Affleck's are really short, which I love those too. But then these are sort of medium-ish because of the sort of spininess of them. And I don't know, it just it just looks cool. It's a new look for Batman. I'm excited about. Now, obviously, one of the pumped up moments in the trailer is when he turns around and he's looking at this one guy and he's about to shoot him. And then you're like, all right, what's going to happen here? Is he just going to get the gun? And he's turning around. Oh, look at that. That looks like a vengeful, angry Batman right there. And that's what I want in this. While Nolan's was angry in a way, this one looks pissed, dude. Like, I want this one because this seems, I don't know. Even though we got to see him slightly fresh after his parents' death, this one just seems like he's just got a lot of fire in there. And then you get this shot of him getting shot right there. Oh, bam. Oh, no. And then he just starts blocking it with his wrist like that. What a badass. And then this is the greatest. He's like, oh, you done jacked up, Cochise. And he's about to rip him. You get him, Vengeance. I love it. God, it's so good. And just look at that face. I mean, when you were reading the comics growing up, that's Batman's face. That's the face you saw in the art. That's the mouth. That's the mean teeth, the eyes, and everything. I mean, God, it just looks so good to me. It really looks good. I'm at first, like I said, I was just kind of on the fence. Not that I was going to hate this movie or even dislike it or not go see it. Of course, I'm gonna love it, go see it, and all that stuff. I just wasn't super excited about it. Man, after seeing this trailer, I mean, I am on the front, 100%. And I just love it finally when he grabs this guy and it shows that he's got those things on his palm and he's electrocuting him and he's just holding him there for a second. The guy's like, ah! And then just look at old Bats right here. Jeez. God, I'm telling you, I got chills right now. Just the way he's looking at him right there and his eyes. And like I said, look at that. The jawline and everything is very much from the comics, especially it's reminding me of all kinds of combinations. It's reminding me of the Adam West cowl a little bit from the 60s TV show. It's also reminding me of the Scott Snyder and the Greg Capullo Batman that was happening about 10 years ago, or not 10 years ago, that maybe 5 or 6 years ago is when it ended, but it was like a 10-year run. Just the sleekness of the character. And even now you see he's got the collar. He's got that sort of stand-up collar in the back, which that kind of reminds me of sort of an older Gotham by Gaslight type Batman, but just his eyes, and it just looks perfect in my opinion. I mean, just the look of this young Batman is great. Now we see, this is obviously, I'm pretty sure this is Paul Dano in here. Okay. So this is where I'm going to get to something where we're going to talk about the plot and the comparisons. So we've got The Long Halloween, and Matt Reeves said that he was basing this off of The Long Halloween, like, or very inspired by The Long Halloween at least. So Long Halloween, all these murders are happening in Gotham, and they're happening every month, once a month. And it starts on Halloween and it ends on Halloween. Well, that's, in the story. But it's the Moroni and the Falcone mob family that a lot of these guys are being picked off. And it's also bleeding into another story called Dark Victory, where in that one, a lot of cops are getting killed every month. And they're sequel stories to each other. And they're super, super famous story arcs in the comic books, some of the most popular of all of Batman. And in this, I'm not sure that they're doing every month, because it doesn't look like they're changing seasons a whole lot in this trailer. I could be wrong, but it doesn't look like they're changing seasons a whole lot. And they might be killing cops, because that's what they said a little bit in the trailer. So it looks like he might be pulling some of the stuff from Dark Victory, which, like I said, is a straight continuation along Halloween, but pulling like the actual concept and format from The Long Halloween, which I'm fine with. I love it when movies make a hybrid like that, but it does look like he's kind of pulling from both of those stories and combining them a little bit without having Two-Face in there, because Two-Face is a big part of the Dark Victory story, and so is Robin. And they're not going to have any of that in this movie. But anyways, I just wanted to say all that because, like I said, I'm pretty sure this is Paul Dano, but in The Long Halloween, Batman goes and visits a guy in Arkham and says, and his name is the Calendar Man. And they don't show this person's face in the trailer. So I'm just curious if this is going to be the Calendar Man or if it's going to be just the Riddler. So we've heard that the Riddler and the Penguin are the two villains in this. The Penguin's barely in it from what I understand, because he's being set up for the sequel. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other villains in it just to play a little role. Like I said, if he talks to Calendar Man for a little bit in the comics, you know what I mean? Excuse me, in the jail. But moving forward, then he's mad at whoever he's talking to, and he's just punching the wall. What have you done? That's what he says right there. And again, look at that. That looks like the Batman out of the comics that's like yelling at somebody. I don't know, man. I mean, Matt Reeves must have just seen that jawline and seen something, because I have to say, never in my wildest dreams would I've chosen Robert Pattinson Twilight to be. Now, don't get me wrong. I think he is a phenomenal actor. I dropped that whole Twilight thing a long time ago with him, as far as I love everything that he's been in, and moving forward, it's just kind of gotten better. Good Times, he was amazing in. I loved The Lighthouse. While it was a wacky movie, he was good in Tenet, but overall, he really is a great actor. It's not that he can't act. I just would have never seen Batman in him. Now looking at these pictures, I mean, Matt Reeves, he knew something, that's for sure. And now when he's just like saying, "What have you done?" Immediately we see that there's okay. It seems like the Riddler's running around and he's got traps and riddles set up and he's blowing stuff up, or he's just terrorizing Gotham in some fashion. That's what it looks like to me. And right here, it looks like we've seen some of this stuff that like they're maybe at a funeral or something. There's cops around, but there's also press there. And I mean, what do you guys think about this Bruce Wayne? Do you like the emo Bruce? Do you like the long hair like that? Are you upset that he's not like a big, bowed, jacked up mofo? Because not all renditions of Batman in the comic books are always super bowed up and jacked. A lot of times they're just regular dudes that are in shape. You know what I mean? Like Ben Affleck was a beast in Batman versus Superman. But that's the Frank Miller style Batman. I mean, you have all kinds of other school, Jeff Loeb Batman in certain ways. Like in The Long Halloween, he's not necessarily super bowed up all the time. I mean, no, I take that back. The Long Halloween, he is. But anyways, there's plenty of them. And then we see Catwoman coming out of the car. And look, this Zoe Kravitz playing Catwoman, very, very good casting. That one I can see immediately just because of her jawline, her lips. And not only does she like look, do you just think that she could be Catwoman? It's not necessarily that, but she's looking like Selena Kyle. She's looking like the character, the person, not like, oh, you'd be good in a cat suit. Like this is something, and we're going to show you something here in a little bit, but this is so verbatim out of the comics. It's pathetic. I mean, I'm not even kidding. I can't tell you how verbatim out of the comics this is. But Batman and Selena's relationship is a fan favorite for the comic geeks like me. We've always loved Batman and Selena's relationship. If you ever ask any comic book fan, who's Batman's love interest, true love interest in the comics? Peter Parker's got Mary Jane and kind of Gwen Stacy. Superman's got Lois. You know what I'm saying? There's all these different ones that people have. Reed Richards has Sue Storm. Tony Stark has Pepper, all that stuff. And Batman's was always Selena. Doesn't matter if he was with Vicky Vale. It doesn't matter who he was with here and there. It was always Selena Kyle in the comics. And Catwoman's not necessarily a bad person in the comics. She's just a thief some of the time, but also a lot of the time she helps out Batman and they support each other, and and it looks like that's what they're going to be doing in this film, which I'm really excited about. But God, look at that imagery right there. I mean, that's beautiful. That is so good. And the fact that like the sort of towering over her being this small petite girl that's also a badass. I mean, I can't tell you how verbatim that is out of the comics. And I've got something to show y'all in the comics here in a second, and I'm going to do a picture comparison, but while it's close to that one, it's an even better one than the one I'm going to show you here in a second. But it does look like they're playing on them, Catwoman and Batman, having some sort of romantic relationship in this movie, which I'm very, very happy about. And then, of course, you got Catwoman on the motorcycle here doing her thing. Now, I liked Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns as Catwoman, and they did do the romantic thing there. But that one was such a Tim Burton film. Beauty about the first Batman movie, the 1989 one, is it felt like a Batman movie, and it was directed by Tim Burton. The second one felt like a Tim Burton movie that had Batman in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was very gothic, and they just went wacky, a little too wacky for me with Batman. I don't think Batman should be all that wacky. But God, Zoe Kravitz is just perfect. I mean, that embodies, to be able to look like Catwoman without any sort of cat-esque things on you, to make me think that's Selena Kyle and that's who Bruce wants. And that's who he would trust. I don't know. I just think Zoe Kravitz is perfect for it. She looks great. And speaking of looks perfect for the role and looks great, we got a shot of the Penguin right here. And all this imagery is just so comic booky, and it's so different from what Nolan was going for. And it's so different than what Snyder was going for. Now, again, love both of them, but this is just so, I don't know. It almost feels like in a different in a different world of a city of Gotham. And that's what that should feel like, you know? But this is the Penguin, and I'm going to show you a closer picture of him in a second. But, you know, it was supposed to be Andy Serkis playing the Penguin, who's playing Alfred. And this is Alfred here. And Matt Reeves and Andy Serkis are very cool with each other because Andy Serkis does all the mocap and everything. And he did all that stuff for Planet of the Apes, the 2 Planet of the Apes movies Matt Reeves did. So when he asked Andy Serkis, he said, look, I want you to be the Penguin, but you also could be anybody you want. I'll give you the option to play anybody you want within reason. And he said, no, I want to play Alfred. He was like, all right, well, Alfred's yours, which I thought that was an interesting choice for him to play Alfred instead of the Penguin. But, you know, looks like it's going to work. I do think Andy Serkis is a way better actor than director thus far. I just didn't really care for Venom versus Carnage, or Venom Let There Be Carnage. But man, look at this picture of Colin Farrell. Now, usually you can notice people in their makeup, right? Most of the time. Man, I can't see Colin Farrell in there at all. You know, like even on House of Gucci, the new House of Gucci trailer, I can kind of see Jared Leto in there. I cannot see Colin Farrell here at all. At all. I think Colin Farrell is a phenomenal actor. I always have. I don't necessarily like all of his movies. It's just as far as the movie choices, but I do think that he's a fantastic actor that definitely deserves more credit from the fans than I think he gets, because I think Hollywood knows he's a good actor. Man, again, I can't tell that that's him. And remember when there was all these shots of people on the set with like blonde hair and people are like, maybe the Penguin's got blonde. And it's just funny. It's like, that wasn't even Colin Farrell at all. This is Colin Farrell. And then we got, you know, it seems a little bit of Edward from Twilight right here. What's like, don't you guys think they could have picked better sunglasses right there for Bruce Wayne to be wearing? Those just don't look like Bruce Wayne sunglasses to me. Anyways, but it looks like he's obviously reading up on the news there, you know, just like getting more pissed. And this is another thing I like right here, is that it's showing that the Riddler's messing with him, like personally, like truly, not just leaving riddles for the cops, but like it looks like he's leaving riddles for Batman, for Bruce. And remember in the trailer, it says, especially in that first one, it says that this involves you somehow. This isn't just something for you to solve to annoy Batman on his days where he's trying to solve other crimes. No, this actually involves you somehow. And it looks like it's kind of getting to Bruce a little bit. And, you know, I like reading all these things. What does no more lies, Coulson mean? Sins of my father. Are they referring to Thomas Wayne right there? You know, renewal is a lie. What does that mean? And who's Mitchell? Who the hell's Mitchell? Guess we're just going to have to see though, right? God, like I said, this has just gotten me pumped up. And this, to me, this is obviously Batman and Catwoman going somewhere. And just look at all that. Driving through this. I mean, they may have made that set as far as the graves on the side of the road like that, but look at that. That's an awesome cemetery, wherever they found that. Beautiful, super gothic. I'm just loving the feel that they're going for here. Just like I said, feels like the comics. And another thing my buddy Paul and I were talking about is that this is like the black makeup, the fact that they're showing it is great, because the reality of it is that he would need that, you know, and you never saw, like when Nolan, you never saw him not have the makeup on, you know, when his mask was off, when his cowl was off, the makeup was off. And it's like, dude, we obviously saw the makeup under there. So I just think this is cool. And I agree with my buddy that this is the way it should be. If he's really doing it and you see the makeup, let us see that he's got makeup on there. It makes it feel more real. Now, the cowl that I was talking about, this is what I meant as far as, you see how you can see, well, I guess not there. There's another one. You can kind of see the stitching and everything there a little bit, but do you guys see the similarity to the Adam West 1960s Batman cowl there? Because I do totally. Like I said, it's not blue. You don't have the drawn in eyebrows and all that stuff, but there's definitely an inspiration from it as far as the shape, the leather stitching on there. And it looks like it's, again, it could be like Kevlar or something, but I just think it looks really, really good. Very happy with the way it's kind of wider at the head and then it tightens around the neck. And, you know, it makes me believe that all of his long hair could fit in there. You know what I'm saying? If he's got all this long hair, it's like, I believe it would fit in that cowl. It just looks great to me. And he's talking to Selena right there. And she's telling him, he's like, I'm afraid for you, you know? And he's just like, Oh, don't you be afraid, baby. I love it right there. Just got it. Does that not just look like the Batman in the comics to you guys? I mean, it just does so much to me. I don't know how to even describe it anymore. It just obviously doesn't have the white eyes, which that's cool. I don't need that. I Some people didn't like the way that they did it in um The Dark Knight. I liked that. I thought it was kind of cool. I thought it was a cool homage, but I don't need the eyes, the white eyes for Batman. It would be cool to get them someday, kind of like we got the moving white eyes with Spider-Man. But, you know, that was Tony's tech and everything that did that. But I guess you could argue that Bruce would have tech that could do that as well. Anyways, the white eyes aren't a deal breaker for me as long it just needs to go with the Batman that they're going for. Whatever tone and type and this approach for Batman they're going for this time, it just needs to go with it. That's all I care about. And then the trailer doesn't really give you any more stuff than the first trailers did. In fact, it gives you a little less stuff. It gives you more visuals. The first trailer that we got, you got more of like, hey, people are picking off cops and we don't know what's up. And you don't really get that in this one. So they don't really allude to a whole lot of things in the plot. And I'm happy about that. They just showed you a bunch of fighting, Batman just jumping down, kicking ass, showed you a bunch of just real shots and versatile things from the movie. A lot of different things from the movie. And you can tell it's not just one color the whole film. You know, a lot of people were worried, is it going to just be brown and red the whole time? And while some of that's in there, it doesn't look like that at all. But oh man, look at Batman there. Because now he's facing off with the Penguin. But man, God, that looks like Batman from the comics. I would have never guessed that Robert Pattinson would have been looking this good in the comic, I mean, in the suit. I just can't re-express to you guys how pumped up about this I am, especially with him. And then Penguin right there, like, hey, what are you doing over here? Get the hell out of here, eh? What are you doing, eh? I love that. He looks like he's going to be like the Penguin should be, slightly likable, but a bastard, you know, a double crosser, but sort of a charmer at the same time. And I'm hoping that's the route that they go for with him. But that, like I said, with the Penguin being in there, with you seeing Catwoman or Selena, all these different things, the Riddler is Dano, possibility of maybe Calendar Man. I still don't know a whole lot about the plot of the film, which I'm happy about. I don't want to necessarily know all these things. I want to go into a movie and really be entertained the whole time. It's nothing worse than when you're in a movie and you're waiting for that scene to come. Like you're like, oh, here's about to be that part in the trailer. Here it is. And then there it is. There's nothing worse than that to me, because that just immediately because the movie is sort of like this buildup when you're watching a movie. You know, it's like stretching a rubber band and you're like, oh, how much can it, oh. And if that rubber band kind of pops, then you're done. That rubber band needs to pop at the end of the movie. You know what I'm saying? And when you know a lot about the plot in the trailer, it ruins that. We got a comment here from Andrew. Said it feels like it steals a lot of aesthetics from the early Arrow and Daredevil TV shows. I can see that definitely with the Daredevil TV show for sure. Like 100%. That grit, that darkness. I totally could see that. I can't sit here and say I watched a ton of Arrow. I didn't really get into a whole lot of the DC universe stuff after Smallville. Like I grew up watching that back in the day, but not dogging on, you know, people love it and everything like that. And I remember it being good in the beginning, but I also remember once they did the crossover stuff, I stopped watching Arrow. So I can't say that I know the aesthetics as well as on that as I do on Daredevil, but I loved Daredevil. And you're right, man. Like all this stuff, like when he was in the rain and just even like these pictures right here of him just fighting all these dudes and right there. I mean, that definitely has the aesthetic, the lighting, that just grit look that Daredevil had in all 3 seasons, which by the way, I really do hope that they bring Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock back into the MCU. And the rumor is they are doing it, but I really hope that because they already bring in Vincent D'Onofrio that played Wilson Fisk back in there. So we'll see, but I need him to be back in there. He's perfect for the role. And I'd like John Bernthal to be Punisher as well. That's the only ones I want coming back. If they give me John Bernthal, Punisher, Charlie Cox as Daredevil, Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, then I will be 1000% satisfied. And if they do a side movie, go with that same tone that they were going in, like you said, with that Daredevil show, because that was a great aesthetic they had. But thanks for tuning in, Andrew. I appreciate that, man. But talking about some of the more aesthetic, I mean, look at this red right here. And it also looks like Batman in this trailer is going through, like, right here, right here, right here. You know, it looks like he's just piling through enemies. And is he just like on this thing having to just chug through all these enemies and just bust them down? And if so, and he just keep moving forward like a video game. I love that. I love the idea of Batman being like, I can get through all of y'all and I can keep going, because that's the Bat. That's what the Bat does. And he outsmarts them all while doing it, whether it's his gadgets or how badass of a fighter he is, or Catwoman helping him out. That's what I'm excited about too, because I think that she's fully going to be an ally in this. And we do know that the Falcone family and the Maroni family are in this movie. So really excited about all that. Like, if they bring that stuff with her being a jewel thief and stealing from them, but then finding out things and witnessing a murder, I'm going to love that. And speaking of Catwoman, is Batman going to be anti-guns in this? Because it looks like she's got a little gun situation right here. Do you guys think that Batman's going to be anti-guns? I think so, because from what I understand, the Bat is made out of the handle of the gun that killed his parents. So the Bat on his chest made out of the gun handle. There's got to be some symbolism there. And Batman didn't always not use a gun. Back in the original Batman days, when he was first created, he actually did use a gun. But it was written in later on that he doesn't want to kill. He doesn't want to do all this stuff. Now, Snyder's Batman kills, but that's a whole other conversation. I personally like the idea of him not necessarily being a killer and being anti-gun. I do like that. And right now, with a lot of gun control issues going on, I could see that them doing that and putting a message behind it, an underlying tone, a moral tone for the film. But I feel like that he is going to be anti-gun in this. I think that's also why they're focusing in on this shot right here of Selina maybe loading up a gun by herself, because she doesn't want to show Batman. And also, when I saw this shot right away in the trailer, I was like, wait a minute, is Pamela Isley going to be in this? And I almost said Poison Ivy and Pamela Isley at the same time, but Pamela Isley is Poison Ivy. And of course it's not, it's Catwoman. So that's good. I'm glad they're not just trying to shove a bunch of stuff down there, because if they were, that's already a mistake. I don't mind if somebody just shows up for a second, but as sort of maybe a nod, but I don't need them to have an intricate plot. I don't need to have 5 villains in this movie. Let's see what Andrew has to say. My single biggest hope of this one is that they can pay off on the making Batman scary. The other versions have been great, but never went far enough there. Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that. I think that, hang on, let me switch over here. I think that Ben Affleck displayed some badassery when it came to fighting, and he wasn't quite scary enough. Like when we saw the swear to me and Nolan's Batman, the beginning when he's lifting Flask up in the air to swear to me, that was pretty good. And I wish they would have really gone more with that. And if you notice, Batman was lurking in the shadows in Batman Begins when you first see that deal and he's getting him on the docks and he's waiting for Flask and he lifts Flask up. He's lurking in the shadows and everything like that. I'm not saying he doesn't do any shadow work in the other ones, but in Dark Knight Rises, it does take place a lot during the day. And then a lot of the times in Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, he's just more on top of buildings and stuff. Like, there are moments he's in the shadows, but he was way more in the shadows in Batman Begins. You know what I'm talking about? That's interesting to me now that I'm just kind of thinking about that. And this one seems more of that shadow scary thing. Cause like you're saying, we want Batman to be scary. We hope they get cause if you're like me, Andrew, there's been some moments in the comics where you almost thought Batman is like, you're about to lose it, dog. You're about to lose your shit of how crazy you're starting and scary you're starting to act here. Like, you're not only are you starting to become really scary, but you're maybe losing touch and enjoying beating up these criminals too much. It used to be a vengeance thing so you can, prove a point and make a difference. But now you're slightly enjoying it. And I like that in the comics. I like that because to me, that makes him more like a threat, an unstoppable force. Like I want him to be like Michael Myers, and I'm not trying to say like I want him to be like literally like Michael Myers, but look at that. If he's just in the darkness and he just creeps out of nowhere, I mean, that just already has a little bit of a fear element to it. So I'm with you, Andrew. I hope they really pull that, because as much as I loved Affleck as Batman, I feel like he didn't have that fear element. That was the one thing that I lost. I don't want to say I lost it with him, but that's the one thing I think they could have done better at, because I mean, it was a little bit there. And I mean, the voice was cool and all that. I like the voice modulator, but he was a badass fighter, but he didn't terrorize, like I wanted him to. I want Batman to terrorize him a little bit, to truly make the criminals like start wanting to piss their pants. So yeah, I'm with you. I hope they do that. Now, look at this shot. Man, that's a beautiful shot right there. And again, I love those spiny ears like that. That's just, to me, it's really working. And this is a color in a Batman movie I'm not used to seeing. I mean, we saw a little bit of sunlight at the end of Dark Knight Rises, but this is definitely like, I don't know if this is the sun's coming up and there's another murder, or maybe it's at the end of the movie or they're about to go do something, whatever it is. But this is just a tone in a Batman film I haven't seen a whole lot of. And I like that. I like that we're seeing something new. And I'm really hoping we don't get a full-on origin of Batman in this again, as far as a flashback of his parents. I mean, that's just been done in every movie. I just don't need it anymore. It's not going to make or break the film as long as the film is good. I just don't need it. I'm cool with them jumping right into Batman being Batman, because we all know who Batman is. But the one I wanted to show y'all that is just literally picture perfect to the comics, and you'll see what I mean here, is obviously it looks like they're about to start kissing here, and God, she looks so much like Selena Kyle, like just her neck, her hair, the way they've got it cut and everything. And that is so close to this right here. I mean, they were clearly going for this, right? I mean, that is almost verbatim. Oh man. And look at Robert. That is literally his face, jawline, his mouth, all of it is just, it looks so perfect in that cowl. I never thought that he would be looking this good in the suit to me. Like, to me, you could draw that just like that, and it would look like the Batman in the comics if you just drew that picture. God bless. And then we got some other cool things, classic Batman jumping down with his cape. Boom. But it's not like a super cinematic glide down. Like, check this out. It has I don't know. While it was cool in Nolan's Batman, where he had that foam that could lock electrically and he could, glide down, it still seemed like, you couldn't really fully believe it. I mean, you can, but you couldn't fully. This one, it seems a little more legit when they're doing some of these things. Like, this is how it would actually go down. And the main thing that I was going to talk about as far as the legitness of it is, like, you see here where he's standing on this building, and I jumped ahead in the trailer a little bit, but I don't think it's going to matter because I'm going to go back. But you see how he's standing on the side of the building right here. And then it immediately jumps to these like cops trying to go like, oh shit, let's get him. This makes me think that Batman's being framed, maybe, because now the cops are after him, or they could just be after him in general. But it does I have a feeling that he might be getting framed in this movie. And then he's jumping off the building right here, which ironically, that looks like a shape of a bat symbol, kind of. I don't know. Does anybody agree? I see bat symbol in that somehow. But then this is what I was going to say on the realistic side. It looks like that they're going for sort of like the squirrel suit idea. Like, what if his cape could sort of, maybe he could use it like a squirrel suit? And because in this one, he flies by real quick, like a squirrel suit does. Like in this, it's a frame. And then the next frame, it's right here. You see him right there. So you go from one frame there and then one frame, boom, right there. And that even gets me more excited because like, wouldn't Batman just want to get as fast as he could from like, and really be super sneaky? While I did like the Christopher Nolan's, the cape, the way he would kind of glide like a hang glider, that was cool. And he could dip down and dive down and all that was cool. But this one, the way it's literally just like That I just think the squirrel suit is like, it's a little more like intimidating. It's a little more like, damn, dude, look how that's Batman getting shoom. Nobody even saw him. You know what I mean? That's just my thoughts on that right there. And it says it appears more garage Batman than corporate Batman. Straight up, all the way. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it 100% feels like garage Batman. Not just from the car, but even from the way his suit looks, it does look like he made it. Now it does he looks like he did a badass job making it, but Nolan's suit, it was made by a corporation, you know. This one, it's totally him making it. And I like the believability of that. And you even like kind of see it in the cowl and the stitching and all that. While again, I love the approach they took with Lucius Fox trying to help him get all that stuff in Nolan's Batman. I like that version of it fine. But for this one, it's time we get a garage Batman. It's time we get somebody that's really truly justice amateur vigilante of sorts. You know, this is on his way to becoming professional Batman, you know. That's the way I look at it. He hadn't fully gotten there yet, but he's doing it, but he's also kind of learning along the way while doing it confidently. So yeah, I'm agree with you. Definitely garage Batman. But backing up a little bit now, because I just wanted to go from that one point of his cape and then showing you him going down from this to this right here. I just think that's really cool how it looks like he's zipping through the air. But he also looks like he's fighting right here with some guys. I love this scene, how he's just like trying to get him down pretty quickly with the gun, and maybe they're shooting around him. That's what you're thinking. And then of course, like, oh yeah, he's getting him down. He's disabling him. And then all of a sudden you're just like, no, how about me just walk straight through it? It's like, damn. I love that. And he's just like, all right, maybe it was cool to take these guys down, but now I'm just going to walk straight to you guys and just get your guns. And oh man, just gives me the chills. I love it. I love a Batman that's sort of like ready to die. And he even says that in this movie. There's a shot of him. Where is it? Later on where he's just like, I don't care what happens to me. And that's a huge deal for him to be saying that, because it's like, well, we care what happens to you, Bats, but I do like that part of the character where he's like, he's ready to go, kind of, you know, or he's ready to do something. He's so ready to fight for crime and make a stance and avenge what he's venging, or stop whoever is doing this stuff, that he's okay with dying as long as it's stopped. And that sort of is the Batman I like. But then, yeah, dude, speaking of the garage, the car. Now we've seen this before, but we didn't necessarily see this freaking blue flame that's just shooting out like, man, I mean, obviously super powerful, super hot. I love the close up on the foot, putting the gas and everything. And, you know, a lot of people have always said, well, I thought he drove the car with the hand thing that pushes forward. No, nobody could really drive like that. In my opinion, the way that he's always what that is that's going from park to drive. That's what that is. That's a park to drive thing. And then he always presses the foot pedal to actually accelerate. So just to clear that up, that's what I feel about. The handle is a park to drive. The foot is how he drives or accelerates. But man, we get another shot here. I mean, look at that car. What kind of car is this anyways? I don't know cars as well as I should. I mean, but it looks badass, dude. I love how it's like boosted up in the back like that. And the tires are just like, you know, big, like truck tires almost. Just really cool. And a lot of people too were worried that this, you know, it's not going to be a tough Batmobile. It's like, well, that doesn't look to be the case right there, because he's just plowing through shit. And if you see on the front, he does have like a grate on there, a bumper, a big, I don't know what you call that, a scraper, a demolition bumper. But I mean, it definitely ain't having no problem plowing through some shit right there. So I'm all right with that. And then we're going to get to some more of the car stuff in a second. But before I get to that, I still got to touch on some of these stuff, because I kind of want to go in order to the trailer. But then, of course, all kind of havoc's ensuing. We don't know what's going on here. But then seeing this is, I love seeing a broken down Batman somehow or another. Like the idea that he just had to go through all this muck. I mean, that can't be easy in that suit, but I love it. It looks so cool. and those eyes just super bright like that. Beautiful, man. All the shots in this are really impressing me. Imagery's looking really good. And, while I really loved Planet of the Apes, or excuse me, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and Rise of Planet of the Apes, because Matt Reeves didn't do, excuse me, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War of Planet of the Apes. He didn't do Rise of Planet of the Apes. I loved them all three, but he did Dawn and War. While those movies are great, they're not comic book movies, so they're not based so much on like picture perfect imagery. The imagery was cool in it, and it was all like, it looked good, and it was cool cinematography. But this one just has a lot of poetic stuff in it, like that right there. It's that this is the picture says 1,000 words shot right here. It's just like, what the hell happened? What's going on? You look really mad. You look like maybe you failed. I love it. I just think it looks great. I feel like Matt Reeves is focusing a lot on not necessarily trying to fully bring the pages of the comic to screen, but he is focusing on making it be poetic like a comic is. And again, there are certain shots that are comic book to screen shots. Like I said, I mean, this right here, jumping straight to this right here. I mean, that's a comic book to screen shot for sure. But he definitely looks like he's going to be weathered in this by this right here. He looks like he's going to go through some crap right here. Again, he's not super bowed up. He's just in shape. You know what I'm saying? He's definitely in shape, but he's obviously scarred up. He's broken and bruised a little bit. And the other thing I like is the anger, man. Look at this right here. It looks like he's really, really pissed about something, and he's plowing this guy in the trailer. And then Selena's watching him, and look at her face. She's like, oh, Bruce is slightly a monster. That's another thing too. Is she going to know who he is in this movie? Are they going to call each other Bruce and Selena? Because in the comics, it doesn't start out that way, but at one point they know who each other's identities are because they're messing around, and then they continue to later just call each other Bruce and Selena. So I'm just curious what route they're going to go with, if they're going to do that in this or not. And then even here, we got some stuff of Commissioner Gordon and the rest of the guys backing up. I think this is going to be at one of the funerals where Batman's saving some people. And right here is what I'm talking about, where he's like grabbing somebody and the explosions happen and he's going back. And look at this stuff in the background. DOA, dead on arrival. Like, who put all this stuff on that vehicle plowing through? It looks like the Riddler, but who is there? Somebody else? We don't know yet. Like I said, I'm hoping they're not going to just shove a bunch of villains down our throat. But here's the shot I was talking about where you can see the cowl. Look at all that leather stitching and everything. It just, to me, that is very inspired by Adam West's 1960 TV show Batman. No question. I don't think anybody can argue with that. But it, like I said, taking place in different places. The color scheme's not just orange all the time. It looks like this place maybe inside of somewhere. And then, of course, we got more shots of the Batmobile, a little bit of a chase scene right here. Batman looks pissed while he's driving. I love it. He's just like the angry Batman. Just angry Batman. Just mad. Even while he's driving. Ugh. But then this is where we get a shot of the Penguin. And he's like doing the whole, I got you. I got you. And this is all cool looking and everything. And then just, again, this is comic book type poetic imagery. Seeing the car jump through like that in the mirror, the rearview mirror, and just boom, landing. Oh man, knocking him over like this and then upside down. And then I just remember already being pumped up about what I'm seeing in this trailer. I'm loving the tone of Robert Pattinson. I'm loving all that shit. And then he knocks him over. And then you see the Penguin right there. And oh, he sees his feet walking towards him. And this imagery right here, guys, that is chills. I got chills and they're multiplying. That was cheesy, but I truly do have chills. This is amazing. So freaking good. I can't tell you how much this just stoked me and pumped me up. I posted on Instagram immediately after it, just how much I was pumped up. And then the fact that you see the Batman logo developing, or the logo for the film, not the actual symbol, but the logo for the film, the Batman, and then just completely turning into this. Oh, just epic. So excited about this trailer, guys. And I'm hoping that it's going to be a lot of conflict for Batman. I'm hoping that Selena and Bruce start doing a little thing, something. I'm hoping that it's way more than just Paul Dano doing a bunch of stuff in Batman. I'm hoping it's tied into what, to Bruce's life somehow or another. I'm like you said, Andrew, I'm hoping they go way more for that scariness. I want him to be terrifying. I want him to terrorize everybody, all the criminals. And I just want to see a Batman I've never seen before. I don't want to see a movie that's just a Batman movie. I want to see a badass movie that is also about Batman. And this trailer is getting me hyped up. And that's what a trailer's supposed to do. It's supposed to get you excited about something that you were, already kind of excited about, but now way more excited now that you're seeing this trailer. And that really is the case, guys. I think this looks badass. I can't wait. Hope you are excited. I'm actually going to here in a little bit and start finishing up while I'm still working on my Halloween Kills trailer. I'm going to start finishing up doing the Flash trailer breakdown, because if you guys didn't see that Flash trailer, it was awesome as well. And it has Batman stuff in it. I think we all knew that Batman was going to be in there. It's a completely different Batman. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But like I said, I'm going to put that trailer breakdown out a little later tonight. And we'll see you in a little bit, guys. But thank y'all for joining me this. And hey, it's the Batman. Live long and prosper, Bat. I can't wait. And we'll see y'all a little later, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.